and welcome to Functionally Fit with Jenn and Leslie. This episode, we are talking with Nellie Harden, who is, thank you for being here, Nellie. And she is a family coach that helps parents develop a strategy for achieving their unique family goals so they can really fully enjoy their time together and give their kids every tool that they need before they leave home. And so I know normally we do a lot of talking on the podcast about whether it's mindset or functional medicine, or even drilling down on mental wellness. But this would be our first episode functioning on talking about the functional family unit and how important that is. And so we really appreciate you being here, Nellie. If you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to doing this kind of work with families.
Oh, goodness. That's literally a 42-year-long story. But I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version. My name is Nellie Harden. I'm married. We live on the coast of North Carolina with our 4 daughters, and I am a family coach. But really how that came to be had a lot to do with wellness and life. So when I was very young, I was only 1.5 when my dad passed away. And so I really grew up knowing of this seize the day brevity and fragility of life. And so growing up, I was always a big dreamer. And I always I was a Midwest girl. I don't know if there's any Midwesterners listening or watching, but high five to you. I'm from Michigan, like right there. And so, but I grew up as a Midwest girl, but I had ocean going dreams and I wanted to be a marine scientist. And that's what I did. I grew up and I did that. And that was probably the first time that I was like, okay, have a dream, put legs to it, make it happen. Right. And I met my husband and we wanted to start a family, and, he's a 9-to-5 tech guy and I wanted to be on boats. So it didn't really mesh, and boats didn't really mesh if you want to have a family. So anyway, I retired from that and went into other things and veterinary work and things like that. But it really all came down to in 2008, my husband, who was 32 years old at the time, was in ICU all of a sudden with cardiac failure. And at that point,
at 32 years old, he had a cardiac event
out of nowhere. And what happened, we come to find out later, he had a congenital heart condition that actually we had him tested for before we had kids because we wanted to know. We knew it ran in his family and it came back negative. And later on, it just turned out it hadn't developed enough yet. But what happened is he had a congenital heart condition. And he had, just like anybody else, taken, this, that, or the other. Someone mentioned, hey, ginkgo biloba is great for memory. Why don't you take some? I take some. And he's in technology and coding, and he knows like 9 billion, languages that they have to know. And he's like, sure. So he took it. Within 24 hours, he was in ICU. It triggered his genetic condition.
Oh no. Okay.
So that's really what happened. There was some unlabeled stimulants in it. And now, we know better and we do much better. But when you're sitting there, and we went through 4 years of medical and testing and hospitals and drug trials and this and that and the other. And it was really hard. And he finally had to have heart surgery. And when you are sitting in the waiting room and you have 4 kids, 4 and under, and you don't know if your husband is going to make it or not, it's a very transformative moment. Like I can close my eyes and put myself right there. I know where the chair was oriented and know where the kids were doing. And so that was a very eye-opening moment. And I realized especially that big dreamer that I had been just had gotten caught in the net of monotony and consistency and do this, do that, survival, follow the herd, all of the things. And I realized that we needed to live for the day, right? We needed to live for what we wanted to live for. And that's really where our family journey, I believe, I think that was the starting point of our own family journey. And I
can't help but think too, that currently there are many people possibly going through the same thing that you went through back then, but with this last year, how it's been, I know a lot of people I've talked to have been reevaluating, are they living in the city they want to live in? Are they, doing what they want to be doing? Are they, really reassessing, I guess is the best word for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do. And you're so right. There's been so many tragedies that have happened in the last year. And it just opens your eyes. I see the t-shirts with like woke on them and I'm like, yep, that was me. And, but at that point we started making decisions to build toward our freedom, because I knew that we had such a limited time here. My husband is good, and we've made it through, but only because we dug our heels into wellness. And the drugs weren't working anymore. The surgery had, a less than 50% success rate of it not coming back. And so I knew that the only way that we were going to get through this and have the future that we were looking for was to really dig our heels into preventative and healing wellness. And that's what we did. And also on the flip side of that, this is a condition that my kids might have as well. And I want to make sure that when they're kids, they're setting themselves up for success in the future, instead of not knowing and us, doing all of those, great kid foods that we sometimes associate with. And not to say we don't do those sometimes, we just are more cognizant of it. And we make sure that we're having more good for yous than bad for yous. I mean, that's really how we put it in our family. And not just the food. And what you do with the functional, it's how you think, it's what you do. It is your ambitions that you have, your interests, how you think, how you rest. It's all of those things that really come into play to making sure that we're setting them up for success in the future by living how we are right now. And that's really how I got into everything I do. I am still a family wellness coach, and I've had a practice for 8 or 9 years. And then I wanted to dig even deeper into that. And I became a family coach because I want to help people live now. And I love to see families thrive. I mean, it is so amazing to see a family out there thriving, playing, smiling, working together. And that's what I love to help people do. And wellness is certainly a part of that. But I wanted to broaden the scope even more to bring in all of those other pieces. And that's how I got to what I'm doing now.
Well, now, so kind of walk us through. I mean, I know you can't maybe, obviously not all the details that you would go through, but I mean, what does that kind of look like as a family that maybe, works with you, or someone that does this kind of work? Like, what does that look like? Is it sort of like the mom usually reaches out to you, and then, who is normally contacting you, or what do you normally
say? It's usually the mom. I mean, let's face it, the moms are more typically the doers, right? And the dads are busy making sure everything is happening and A, B, C, D. And the moms are like, let's think bigger picture. And that is not always the case. And I've definitely had dads reach out to me. So I don't want to box anyone in. But if you ask me who mostly does, it's usually the moms. Mm-hmm. But what that definitely looks like is my private clients, they reach out and we have this conversation. And my main goal is to make sure that a family's goals that they have are served within this. My project, or my company, is called the 6570 Project. And that is because there are 6,570 days in 18 years. That's how many chances that we get to truly be their biggest influences, their biggest impact in their lives. Once they turn 18, the law says that they can, go off and do what they want, and they will certainly come back, and they will certainly still need you. And I am not saying that at all. But it really is during that 18 years that you have that biggest influential point that you can. And helping parents understand the impact factors of what's happening when they're 3 and 5 and 7 and 15 and all of these, how that affects their future, right? Because anything that we do, you and I, like sitting here, anything that you knee-jerk reaction to, or your first thoughts, It always goes back to that first 18 to 20 years in your life, right?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it's because we had to do a whole lot of mental work in order to change that.
Right.
And so helping parents understand the timeline and understanding that what do you want at the end of this, and let's start making it happen now. Because we get into this, oh, this is my life now, without understanding that there is a ticking happening, that's going on. And so I really help them work with their goals. And then I help them understand each other a little bit more, the parents and the kids too. How do each other learn? What are their innate intelligences? How do they speak to each other? What are the languages that they use? Because then during that 18 years, you can have actual communication and real communication and build so much faster than, you have the 17-year-old yelling at the parents and vice versa, because they don't understand each other. So communication, if you get that right from the start, is so impactful and fast forwards everything to the good stuff. We all want to fast forward to the good stuff, right?
Yeah. Now, do you find people normally are seeking out your help after there's been some kind of crisis or problem, or is it preventative or a little of both? I don't know. Sometimes I see, especially in functional medicine, definitely in dermatology, it's very problem focused in that I have a problem, I'm coming to you to solve my problem. So we're just curious if that something that there's like maybe a tipping point for people and then they reach out, or you kind of trying to hit the preventative too?
Honestly, both. And so I'll get some with teenagers that are having an issue. They aren't listening to me. I can't get past them. There's a wall between us. They don't know what's going on. I get that same talk with, frankly, like 6-year-olds though, right? And especially in the last year when it is, you're not my teacher, I don't have to listen to you, right? We've had a lot of that going on. Okay. And I homeschool my kids too. So I had a lot of home education tools that came out in this last year. I have another one coming out in February. So, all of those things, but whether it is wellness, these, all the points that I go on: wellness, finances, we have education, and we have discipline and mindset, all of those things wrapped together in how I help my clients. And so any of those really come to us. I mean, if you have a family that is like, you know what, I am aware now, and I have a 2-year-old, I want to make sure that I am setting them up for success and that I am enjoying this life, right? It's not just the first 18 years of their life. It is 18 years of my life too,
Absolutely, yes.
And so I want to make sure that I'm not just pouring and pouring and pouring for 18 years and not filling my own cup up, because I'm not going to be able to be the best person that I can be in that, right? Yes. And so I help parents and I help kids, but really I love to help the family unit come together as one. And I think that's a unique concept, because there's a lot of people out there that are like, that focus on kids, or a lot of people that focus on a mom or focus on the parents. I personally love to focus on the family as a whole, because you're together for the rest of your life, no matter if they're living in Australia and you're here or not, whatever that is, you are a family. And the better you can work on having that close-knit, understandable communication, connection, and clarity family, the better you're going to set yourself and them up for success down the road. So from what I'm hearing so far, maybe this may be a question popping up for anyone listening too, would be when some of the things that you're talking about, how does this overlap with like actual therapy versus this coaching component? Because I think there's a difference of someone having a therapist. Now, do you see that your clients will have both? Like they'll have a therapist that's involved, or maybe even a psychiatrist, or who knows, depending on the gravity of the mental health and wellness, and then they have you do, because you're not doing anything with medications or recommendations. It's not medical, but it is wellness, and sort of it's not considered like a medical service. It's just, no.
Yeah, no. Right.
It's definitely not. And thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point. So I highly encourage therapy. I think therapy is great. I mean, who doesn't want to just sit down and talk with someone that doesn't have to do with their lives to tell them everything about their life, right?
Yes. Yes, yeah. We actually just did an episode with a local therapist, Dr. Charity Godfrey, and she did a piece on mental wellness. And she and her group they have so many tools and things that are just, if people need that, that's like that box, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so for your ideal person is looking for whole, like managing more as a family unit, right? At home with.
Right. So managing more as a family unit. And I really kind of think of it as, I highly encourage therapy. Anyone in the family that wants to do therapy, please. And it's so great. And that really helps with that emotional and mental side of things, right? And then I come in and I help put legs to whatever you're looking for that you want to happen, right? So you want to make sure that the kids know about better wellness. You want to make sure that as a family, you're working on better wellness. As a family, you're talking about financial ideals and what that looks like, and the saving and the spending and all of these things, and how to even do money. I mean, a lot of families, my kids, when we do a mortgage, we're like, hey, look at this. This is, because I swear, mortgage is the most confusing thing in the entire world. And you just sign your name 67 times, and then
a huge stack.
Like, I think I have a house,
Yes.
And so just putting those type of simple solutions in front of you and seeing where you want to go. So that's what I do in coaching. I help put legs to wherever they're going so that they have actual structural strategy to go forward.
Could you share with us, before we kind of wrap up, could you share, like, without maybe naming any names, but any like a success story of a client or a family unit, and what that looked like?
Sure. Let me see. Well, you know what? I'll use our family, for example, because, right? I have 3 businesses. Every business I have is because of experience, right? We experience, and then we teach. And so with our own family, we wanted a way that we would come together and we would be able to work together, because that's a huge skill, right? To be able to work with people that are different than you. And there are 6 people in this house, and we are all extremely different people. And so we wanted to be able to work together and teach them how to work with others, accept people's ideas, work, compromise, and all of those, and also build something and see a change happening, see how you can impact the world with your ideas and give worth to their ideas. And so we built a family business that we have. It's called the Seaglass Company. And we built that a few years ago, all 6 of us working together. When we started it, my youngest was in 2nd grade. She was still part of the board. We had board meetings, we still do. And we were able to watch then and have them watch what a family sitting around a table out to eat in town one day, just a quick idea, to now that business is around the world. And so they were able to be like, oh, okay. So it's not just, oh, that would be cool, an idea. You can actually put legs to an idea and make it go forward. And I have no business background. I was a marine mammalogist, remember? So I have no business background whatsoever. So it's not just, oh, she's a business person, she knows what she's doing. I had no idea what I was doing, but you can figure it out along the way. And if you figure it out together, it really brings a humbling factor into your family, that your kids are like, oh, Mom and Dad don't know everything, and they have to learn just like I have to learn. And I've seen them persevere, which means I can persevere, right?
So, yeah, and I love this because, I was thinking too, as you were talking about whether it's a business, I love the idea of doing a family business, but also you know, even if it was like a charitable business or or whatever it would be, but like, you're right, everybody seems to be like doing their own thing. Like, you know, maybe dad's got this going on, mom's got this going on. From what I hear from my friends that are mothers, like their kids are, somebody's got this sport, another one's got this event, or they've got this music, but there's no like one thing that all the family is doing maybe together. Maybe it is church on the weekends, maybe it is like a family movie night, but this business concept is so interesting to me. Can you share a little bit more about the business in general and how the kids played a role in moving that forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and your idea too. So we also have a nonprofit called Love Made Lemonade that we raise money for nonprofits around town too. And they came up
very cool.
They came up with the lemonade recipe, and they, you know, raise money for the 4th of July festivals and all of this. So I think that is a beautiful idea too. With the Seaglass company, it's eco-friendly. So we actually have a glass, I almost said factory, a glass room in our house, and we make glass straws custom etched for businesses and personal. And so there's a lot, and they all have to be hand individually etched. And so there's a lot of hands-on work that goes with it. So we're in Whole Foods, and so when we have to fill the Whole Foods section and things like that, like it is all hands on deck. Like, this is what we're doing for 3 days. Turn on the Marvel series or whatever you want to do. We got, this is what we're doing. And we all just work together and have fun. And it's hard work, you know, doing that and getting it all ready. But man, when you can see all those hundreds of boxes shipping out, it is such a cool, like, hands around everyone's shoulders, like, we did that. Like, way to go, team. Like, we did that, and that's awesome.
So the business is called, what is the glass called now? Seaglass? Or
the Seaglass Company.
Seaglass Company.
Yeah, the Seaglass.
Okay. Very cool. Well, I just love everything that has to do with like Seaglass and everything. So I'll be like, definitely. Do you guys have a website as well?
Yep, the Seaglasscompany.com. Yep.
Okay.
Right.
And so this is a full-on family meeting that you have, what, once a quarter, once a month?
Once a month. Yeah, definitely once a month. But what's so amazing is it really has grown them. So when we go to the Chamber of Commerce meetings, you know, it's a bunch of these like 30 to 60, 70-year-olds, you know, talking about their business. And then I have a 9-year-old that goes up there and pitches our business, you know?
Wow.
And I have my 15-year-old, my 14, all these, you know, and they stand up and they just glow. And when they can sit down and know that they're worth being in a room with adults because they're at that caliber, and they can sit down, and then they go home and they do totally goofy, you know, 9-year-old things.
Yeah.
And that's cool, you know?
Yes.
And, so, but it really just helping them know that they're worth now, so that later on they can speak up, right? They don't feel like they have to be closed. They can speak up when they see something that's happening that's wrong, or if they have an idea. You know, if there is someone in the corner that is cowering because they don't have the ambition or the self-confidence to speak up, and they have the cure for cancer, then guess what? It's not going to happen, right? And so if we start building these things into them along the way, then amazing things can happen. So
I love that. So now then I guess you would potentially be helping and have helped other families find that family thing.
Yeah, whatever.
And that's kind of what you, and maybe it's exercise, or maybe it's multifaceted, right? Maybe it's movement, maybe it's meals, maybe it's, right? And
so I work with families for a minimum of 3 months. And so it really, and I have, you know, those weekly one-on-ones with them, and we really just work. So most of the time it's definitely multifaceted in what they want to do. And I ask them in the beginning, you know, in this area, what would you like? What do you want this to look like, right? What do you want to reflect? What do you want to do now that's going to reflect in their future? And, you know, with my husband and I, which isn't always easy, I always say, okay, so we have to behave like we want to see them behave in 20 years, right? So if we're flying off the handle, which we are not perfect, and we're parents, and, you know, it's fine. But if you honor that and you're like, you know what, guys, probably not the best. I didn't handle that the best way.
Yes.
Because in 20 years, I want to see my kids be able to come full circle and be like, you know what? I might not have handled that great, or maybe they handle it great the first time around. Hope they do. But even if they don't, I want them to be able to, come to terms with that and apologize and things. So, if we're behaving now like we want to see them behave in 20 years, and we're instilling behaviors in them now that we want to see in them in 20 years, that's what it's all about.
Great, great. So in the show notes, we will put the information on ways that people can, follow you and get some information from you, as well as your website. And then I love this, that we'll definitely include the Seaglass and any other, things that we want to include that people may want to check out. But before we finish, I was hoping that you'd leave us with, and by the way, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We so appreciate it. We are a new podcast, but we are excited to bring just sort of different information, especially functional medicine and nutrition based, and then wellness based. And this whole concept of family wellness, I think, cannot be undervalued for sure, and probably isn't talked about as much. And it's definitely nothing I've heard of on, other mainstream, podcasts where there's a lot of focus on individual health, which is always important, maybe even certain diseases and things, but not necessarily family health. And I think this is really, really great. So if you could leave us with just like maybe 3 or so tips that kind of top tips that you would give families sort of in this time where I know some are still in this either a hybrid learning, or some are still homeschool. I mean, every city is so different. I mean, it's wide open here in Florida. Chicago and places are like shut down. I hear all sorts of different information from everywhere, but maybe just a little bit on, their top tips for families, and especially those that may need a little bit of, obviously there's been a lot of coming together over the quarantine and but like really turning this into a time that can be of more benefit than not.
Right. It really can be like the best time. We can turn around to be the best time. But really, if I had to give 3 pieces of advice to families, just in general, it would be to just live together. And what I mean by that is, this is their first 18 years. This is 18 years of your life. Like, mesh and live together. It doesn't have to be, parents doing one thing and we're raising kids doing another thing. Like, live together. And my husband and I go on many, many dates, just the 2 of us. So I'm not saying every moment needs to be together. I don't think that's healthy either. But when you are going into endeavors, include them, right? And when you're going on a walk, include them, talk about them, ask about their lives, and ask them opinions on your life. When there's that reciprocity, it is amazing. Simple is usually better, and their thoughts are much more simple than ours because they have so many less lenses that they've, added over time that they're looking through. So live together, and prepare for life. So what I mean by that is exactly what we've been saying so much, like just live now like you want to help them live later. By the time kids leave your house, I love to think of it as like they have a suitcase of every starter building block to everything they're going to confront later on. Right. And so whatever that looks like, and I go over the education, the wellness, the discipline, the mindset, and all the time mastery, all of these things. When you have those, then you're so much more apt to be successful later on. So helping them build that life and prep for their life, and then just have fun. I mean, I think having fun and having at least like one huge big belly laugh a day, where it's hard to catch your breath. I think that is so productive and can move a family forward more than a lot of other things can. Just laugh and have fun, because why not? Like, why wouldn't you, right? And so those would be my 3 biggest pieces of advice to any family in general.
Excellent. I think that is excellent. All, so good. So good. Well, Thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate it. And again, we will in the show notes if you'd like to learn more about Nellie and what she offers, and of course her family business. That would be in the show notes here. And thanks so much for listening.